Hello, people. Welcome to the third episode of this adventure. In this episode, I'll start by using the project we started in the last episode and creating a basic website using MVC. So simple stuff. As we started, I'll be using the group management project or this application. After the last video, I pushed it to GitHub. I created another branch, a develop branch. While recording the other video, I was working on master, but now I created a develop, push here, and created a tag episode 2. So I'll tag after each episode, so it's easy to keep the code relationship between the videos and what's on repositories. So that's it. Now I can open Rider. In the last episode I used Visual Studio Code. Now I'll use Rider. We have exactly the same things. So the program, nothing to do. So let's begin with the startup class. So like I mentioned, here is where we configure dependency injection and the application pipeline, request pipeline. So in this case, just a basic MVC application. So configure services is where we configure the application, the dependency injection. In this case, we don't need anything specific yet, but MVC needs. So what we'll do is we'll go to services and use MVC or add MVC, and this registers in the dependency injection container the MVC required services. I'm not going to go into much detail on this part yet, just to know this registers the MVC required services. In a future video I'll go into detail on dependency injection. So, and in the request pipeline we need to register MVC as an handler of our request. So use MVC. This is the most basic stuff. We, of course, building the application will need more things, but for this simple part, this will suffice. So we have MVC setup. Now we can begin using it. So the initial part is just we will follow the conventions. So we can configure all of these things, but the conventions are that if we have a directory called controllers, and then we add a class. I could use the controller scaffold, but I'll use this. So we can do groups controller. So by using this convention, MVC will find our controllers. I didn't even need to do this that I'm going to do, but this is useful, so we can use the base classes things, the base classes methods, but it just because it's named controller, MVC would have found this as a controller. We didn't need to do this. I just want to do it because I want to use the base class things that are provided. So we have a groups controller. We can define a route. So this will be the base route for every action of this controller. In this case, loops. And then we can start with something like, again, conventions, action result, which is the usual kind of result for actions. We can return directly the class we want, or we can return an action result. So you can return things like 404 or other different results rather than the usual 200. So we use this, and this is convention. If we say this is index, this will be called in a route like, if we do something like /groups, a request to index will be automatic. We don't need to put a route attribute here. I'll put, just in case, I'll put get to enforce that this will only respond to get requests. And just to make it clear, you can put this here with nothing. And now we can do something like return content so this content is a method of controller that returns a 200 with this string. So right now this should work. Let me get this in the .NET. Okay, so it's running. Let me grab Firefox. And it returns the LU we were expecting. Okay, good. I can stop this. So now let's add views to this. Again, in convention, if we add a folder, views, and then we create a folder, groups, and another folder. No, not a folder, a file. We can create the Razor MVC view. Okay, I'll use this. And I'll call it index. See that its index matches the name of the action. It isn't needed, but okay. All of these, we're not here to create valid HTML yet. That's for the future. So instead of returning content, we now can return this. By not passing in anything, this will be, like I said, by convention, its index. So okay. If we refresh this, hello again, now from the view. Okay, so this is working. Let me stop this and I'll show you a neat trick. I'll watch this. So anytime a file changes, this will be recompiled. A file that needs recompilation, in this case the C# files. These CS/HTML are compiled at runtime, so if we change them and refresh, they will be recompiled anyway. So .NET Watch ran. it will be the same in the meantime. So we have a view, we have the groups controller, very simple. Now let me just check my sheet. Let's start with another. Now let's add another folder, models, and we'll create, call it group model, so it will represent the group. In this case we just want the ID, the long, and the thing, string, a name. The group will have more things, but for now this will suffice. Now we can go to the controller and do something that we shouldn't, but for testing it works. So we'll add here ID1, name, sample group, I'll just add here as well you'll see why, but basically we're making this our database in memory. So starting on 1, and now in the index we can return groups. So now here, instead of this, we'll add a model that will be an enumerable group view model. We don't need this. Wait. It doesn't know it because we need to import that. One thing that we can do is create a file named view imports. Let's see, HTML, and over here let me just make a little quick sheeting. And that is here. So I'm adding to this view imports file our models and the tag helpers that are ASP.NET MVC specific, and we'll use it. So I'm importing right now. So if I go here, we have this. Don't need to add the whole namespace. And now we can just do this to iterate and do something like this is Razor syntax. This is probably what I less use in when working. Normally we just do single page applications and use web APIs, but if this is a complete sample, we need to do this front-end part also in ASP.NET. So now I can use group.name, and if we go to Firefox, this is probably restarting, hopefully. Let me check. Okay. This is the problem. The watch sometimes has these kinds of errors when it fails on the view file and then doesn't restart. Weirdly sometimes. Okay, groups and the sample group. So far so good. Just a drink. Okay, so right now we have nothing else but this. Let's changes. Let's add details. So we want a route. In this case, no need for details. We want the ID. I was forgetting. So not that we have a lot of details because it's just an ID and a name, but so we can just return. We'll get the group. We'll get where the group ID equals ID. If we can't find it, we'll return not found. That's why we need to use this iAction result, because it's the kind of return this is. If we didn't do this check and just, for instance, in here, we do it because of the view, but if, for instance, this was a web API, we could just return here the IEnumerable of, but it's not the case because we want to return the view with the model, so it's different. But when we get to the web API, we can see this in action right now, action result. So in here, not found. If it is found, we can just return the view. In this case, we'll pass it the group. What's missing? Details. Can't understand what's going on. And the group. It's correct. Never saw this error on Visual Studio. It was weird. So if we do groups, and now we add a file, use a clean file. So we can create a details.cshtml. It's an empty one, but now it's happy because there's the view. And the mouse died again. It's back up. So we can go to the details, and in this case, the model, will be group view model. Right now we'll just show the name. And here now we can, let's call it edit, but it doesn't yet. And in here what we want to do is use those tag helpers. Tag helpers, I have never used this very much, just playing around some things, so I'm not the greatest. Thank God for IntelliSense. So in here, instead of creating the age ref, we can provide these informations. So SP controller, the groups, the action will be details, and then we add ID, no, SP, route, ID. So this allows us to pass a route parameter. In this case, it will be group.id. So this will be passed to the controller over here. So hopefully, if we do this, will it work? Okay. And it's here. So it's not that much info, but it's the detail. Now we can make an editor out of this. So we go to the details. Before, let's create here another one. So in this case, we want post. The route will be no need for a different route, we can just use this, and then this will be edit, which will receive an ID and a group view model. I'm not being careful with validation and stuff like that. One thing we need here, let me see if I remember the name correctly, is anti-forgery, validate anti-forgery token. This is a protection against cross-site request forgery attacks. So when we will see the view, it will generate a token that will be validated over here. So we have this. So this will be an update. So we can do the first part is just the same as this one. If we find it, we can just do group.name equals model.name, and then we return a redirect to action index. So when we edit this, I just noticed this, it's time for the, I have no idea how it's here, disable night shift. Okay, so like I was saying, when we do the update, we'll redirect to the home page to see the results and not return a view to make that post redirect get, to avoid posting multiple times to the same endpoint. So we post, we do what we have to do, and then redirect, in this case to the home page, but we could simply redirect to the details. In this case, I will redirect to the home page. Okay, so we have this. Now what we need to do is transform our details into an editor. So we'll create a form. This won't need it anymore. And in the form we have those same things. So controller groups. We want to call edit action. We also want the route ID, which will be again model.id, and this is probably not needed as the default is this, but post. Now we must do the other things. Let's create a label. Again, this is our tag helpers. I was reading how to use this not too long ago, because like I said, I didn't use this very much. So this will make the label be for this property. Now we want an input. And this will create an input for the name, and it automatically will say that it's of type text because the name property is a string. And finally, we want a button. We'll call save. Type submit. If you see something that could be improved, please comment with that, because like I told you, I normally do more web API stuff. So if I fail on the Razor stuff, it's not that shocking. So this doesn't feel bad. If this doesn't crash, which apparently didn't, we can go to Firefox. Okay. Refresh this, edit. Okay, so we have a name, sample group, let's call it 2. Save, and it works. I'm surprised it works on the first go. Okay, we have the basic stuff. So in the controller we list them all, then we show one, and then we edit an existing one. Now let's create a new one. So what do we need to do to create a new one? Let's start by get on the route create, and again an action result create. We want nothing because this will be the creation page, not really creating anything yet. So we'll return a view, and this is again with an error. So we add a new file. So if we go here, it's happy. Now, the create will be kind of the same as the edit. So I'll just copy this, go here, and then in this case it will be create. It will have no route because we don't know it yet. And let's call it create. This should work, hopefully. No, not yet, because we have the screen. Now we must receive it. Now again, post. So we're posting here. Let's create, but in this case we get a group view model. So model.id equals ++ current group ID, which is our identity like stuff. Now we can go to the current, to the groups, add model, and then we return a redirect to action. Index. So after creating, it will go to the main page again. This seems to be working. Back to Firefox. Yeah, I forgot. We need in the index to create a button, of course. Button, no. So I'll create. And now ESP controller groups ASP action create. I think this is it. So this didn't need anything. Let's get back to Firefox. And now we have a create, which works. And now something's wrong. I forgot something. Create. Let's see the logs. Logs don't say anything. 404. Why a 404? Action create. Okay, so after some digging, I found out the problem and come to the surprising conclusion that I'm an idiot, or not so surprising. So the problem is I have this create and the create, and even though they are different methods, when I use them, when I declared it here, apparently it tries to send it to the first one. Don't know why, even though method and all that, I'm not sure. But okay, so this is the problem. So if we go here and change one of them, so create, and I don't know, I'll find a better name later. But if we do this, now let's go to the in here, here. So now maybe it works, hopefully. So here we go, create, compiling, test, create, and it works. Awesome. Okay, so I think this is sufficient for this video. It's the most basic stuff we could do. There will be some more repeated code. This is just for the groups. We'll need to have something to add users to the groups and stuff like that. As the code will be probably very similar, I'll just do it offline. No point in recording all of this. It's just a waste of time. This was the more important part. So using Razor, using these tag helpers, seeing how the controller works, and all of this works together using the conventions. I'm just using the convention, like I said. If we don't like this, and a lot of people don't like Jimmy Bogart, the guy from that implemented AutoMapper and another mediator. He doesn't like this organization in controllers, models, views. He prefers to have everything that's related in the same folder. So all these views that are related to the groups controller would be here, and the models as well, instead of being this groups controller, then the views groups and all that stuff. To me, this doesn't annoy me, so I normally use the conventions, but this is all configurable. We just would go to the startup and configure some things and it will work. But yeah, for now, I think this is it. This is the basic functionality using controllers and views and this view import to help. So I guess this is it for now. Hope to see you in the next one. See yous.